unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxingego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Terence Crawford's trainer says Alexis Rocha for Crawford is some easy work and he'll get destroyed. But he lists Rocha and Errol Spence as potential opponents for Crawford to fight next. That's what I want to talk about in this video. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I am back with some more boxing. Well, the saga continues. So BOMAC, he was interviewed by Fight Hype. Make sure you check out the interview. And in this interview, you hear BOMAC, trainer and manager of Terence Crawford. He was talking about, he was being asked, and I'm just going to paraphrase because I'm not going to read all the quotes, but basically he was asked about Terence Crawford, Errol Spence. A lot of people holding on to hope that the fight could happen. A lot of fans still want to see the fight. So naturally, anytime you get anybody in that circle in front of you, you ask them about it, right? So Errol Spence, Terence Crawford question came up, and BOMAC, I mean, I'm not a psychologist. However, I did study psychology in college, took some psychology classes and did additional reading on it because it's a very interesting subject. Now, what struck a chord with me in this particular interview was BOMAC seemed like really fidgety and like shifty-eyed. Like if you just look at his eye, I don't know if maybe he didn't want to be interviewed or he didn't want to say the wrong thing, but it was weird. It was weird because BOMAC was just looking around and like not making eye contact with the reporter, but answering the questions. And his eyes were constantly moving and shifting. You guys watch the interview and let me know what you guys think. So just from the body language, it seemed a bit weird. Now, the reason why I bring up psychology is because in psychology, when people do certain things with their eyes, there could be telltale signs. I mean, now sometimes maybe it's nothing, but other times it does mean something. And when it came to like the situation with BOMAC, it really seemed like he just looked uncomfortable. Maybe with the line of questioning or, again, not wanting to say the wrong thing. I don't know. I can't really speak for another man, but that's just immediately what I seen during this interview. He just looked very, I'm not going to say nervous, but he just looked like he was paranoid. Like imagine being at a spot, like you at a hood party or something and you don't know nobody there. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like you don't know if it's a setup, that kind of, that's how he was looking, like almost like his head had to be on a swivel, but it was really, I don't know exactly where they were. It looked like a fight or something. So I thought that was weird. But moving on from that, BOMAC said the Errol Spence fight, yeah, it could happen. It's looking good for that, but no real details, no real anything. And BOMAC has already said this in the past. Like I have the interview saved. There's interviews from last year where he's like, oh yeah, we getting close. We real close. We close. He said something to that effect of we close. And Crawford was in negotiations with PBC, Premier Boxing Champions Al Heyman, Errol Spence's team inside. And the 11th hour, he, I guess, does an interview with ESPN announcing that he's going a completely different direction to the dismay of fans. And he's fighting David Alopecia or whatever the dude's name was, right? And it kind of threw people for a loop and it threw a monkey wrench in the fight for Undisputed that we all want to see, right? So I told you my opinion. I respect Errol Spence, the fighter. I respect Terence Crawford, the fighter. And of course, sure, I want to see the fight. But based on what boxing has provided, like in the upcoming Inoue and Stephen Fulton, we got David Benavidez and Caleb Plant this week. We got Ryan Garcia fighting Gervonta Davis, two explosive guys with pop and power. And, you know, they did a great job selling it, especially at the Los Angeles press conference. It's just too much greatness for me to worry about any one fight that may or may not happen. And I mean, I've been in this mood for quite some time. Do I want to see the fight? Absolutely. Right? It would be a great classic fight for fans. Crawford, Spence Crawford, however you want to say it. But, you know, I'm at the point where I'm not going to hold my breath that the fight will happen, because it's just a lot of back and forth with very little progress. So, you know, it's like Cuba Gooding Jr. said in Jerry Maguire, show me the money. You got to show me the money, show me the actual press conference, the announcement, and then I'll buy it. But back to the BOMAC interview. So in this BOMAC interview, he's looking shifty-eyed for whatever reason. Then he starts talking about Errol Spence, and he's like, yeah, that could happen, you know? And then out of nowhere, he also says Alexis Rocha. Like, basically Alexis Rocha could get it too, you know, and that's a sparring. This is not my own rendition, because when I say stuff, people say I'm hating. But then you have the trainer and manager of Crawford, and he's calling it a sparring match. He's saying he gonna get dominated. That's literally what he said. He said that's like a sparring match and he'll get dominated, which is what most people believe. See, this is the thing that's it's kind of ironic. Terence Crawford is kind of his own worst enemy, and he's almost the victim of being that good. And what do I mean? What do I mean is, when you are an elite fighter, which Crawford is, you are a talented, determined, skilled fighter, which Crawford is, you're undefeated, people are going to hold you to higher standards. You want to see the best versus the best. You want to see people that will like push the needle, you know, push the envelope, push a different gear, show every true fighter, every legacy fighter, everybody that's in my top 10, you know. And I don't really do top 10s, but, you know, if I were to sit down and list some of the greats, all of them had it. All of them had like legacy, signature fights you remember. And guys, no matter how good you were, there were certain guys that stuck out that really pushed you. I mean, to me, I don't think Terence Crawford has done more. This is just my personal opinion. He ain't done more than Floyd Mayweather. And even being as great as Floyd Mayweather is, he still had tough fights. There were still fights that were tough, and that generally happens if you have tough opposition, because there's no man or woman that is put on this earth and you're just a one-on-one. I mean, you are in certain regards, meaning there's no one exactly like you, but you're not the only person with power. You're not the only person with a chin. You're not the only person with speed and determination. There are others, right? There are other people like you. That's just like somebody who's bilingual and speaks English and Spanish, and they think they're the only one in the world that's bilingual that can speak two languages. No, it doesn't work like that. Just like left-handers could be rare, you know, there could be more right-handers in the world, but if you the bigger your circle is, the more people you know, you're going to find some left-handers in there, right? You're going to find some southpaws. So that, I firmly believe that. And I feel Terence Crawford hasn't, especially at welterweight, you know, we'll focus in on welterweight. At welterweight, he hasn't had the signature names for several years for a variety and litany of reasons that really show you, you know, and it's hard to keep Crawford in the number one space and capacity when you don't have the best welterweight resume. You have one belt. I mean, somebody, if you guys can make more sense than what I'm about to say, please do in the comment section. I can't wait to read the comments. So, for example, does Errol Spence at welterweight? Don't bring up no other weight classes, because boxing is a what have you done for me lately sport. So it's what have you done? Like the undisputed, everything it took for you to get here, that's great. That's what made you who you are. I dig it. But at the same time, it's about the here and now and the who's who right now. There are a lot of people that was making money in the 90s and they broke now, you know, making money in the early 2000s and they broke now, you know. So don't tell me about what you used to have. So when it comes to welterweight, Ugas has a better record and resume of names than Terence Crawford. He fought Pacquiao. I mean, there's no one on Crawford's resume in any weight class that rivals what Pacquiao's done for the sport, right? Ugas could say he fought Sean Porter when he was a champion. He fought Pacquiao, who's basically was a champion or a champion in recess, right? He fought Errol Spence. You know what I mean? He fought top tier people, and they have some probably mutual people, Thomas Delorme and stuff like that. So Ugas is one of them ones. Errol Spence, same thing. So it's like, how can Crawford, like, you could say skillfully he'll whoop anyone if that's what you feel, but that again is subjective, right? But to say he's the numero uno, you would have to base it on what you've done. Errol has more belts and he had a harder path of fighters. That's the reality. So it's ironic when BOMAC is doing this interview and he's talking about Alexis Rocha is basically easy work and he's going to get dominated and he's going to get his ASS beat. And it's a sparring match. So Crawford, he seems like the type to get mad when there's criticism and people like, oh, people saying I ain't fight nobody. But how can you get mad if your own trainer is basically downplaying and belittling the fight, saying that Rocha is a sparring match? Because, you know, I can't speak for BOMAC, but I mean, if you read, I don't think he would say that about Errol Spence. Like, this is just an easy domination sparring match. I mean, I could be wrong, but even if he did say that, if he said Errol Spence is a sparring match and that's nothing to him, or Jerron Boots Ennis is a sparring match and is nothing to him, then I think people in the comment section would go off, because that would be disrespectful for those fighters. I think even a Virgil Ortiz, I don't think you can even call him a sparring match for Crawford. Not saying he can't beat these guys, but you know, at the end of the day, that would be a disrespect for their skill set to just write them off and say they're a sparring match. But when it comes to Alexis Rocha, I mean, he's already lost to Rashidi Ellis, who just lost recently. He hasn't really showed this propensity at a top level where it really makes you believe that he can beat a guy like Terence Crawford. And it's just like, it's funny in boxing, you got people who say they're not biased, but their narratives prove that they're insanely biased. Like, for example, listen to some of the same people who will constantly critique Canelo Alvarez and say, why is Canelo fighting John Ryder? But they're not going to say anything about Terence Crawford potentially fighting Alexis Rocha. You know, and realistically, if I'm being, and listen, I'm not saying this to save Canelo, because I don't like the John Ryder fight. I already told y'all that. But at the same time, if we're being real, John Ryder got a better body of work than Alexis Rocha per capita and per division. So if you're going to roast Canelo, who has a better resume than Crawford and has, you know, made more money and all that A-sideness, if you're going to criticize him for fighting John Ryder, right? And I'm all for that. Criticize him. But then how are the same people not saying anything to Terence Crawford if he does fight Alexis Rocha? And then you're like, oh, it's his mandatory. Well, John Ryder is Canelo's mandatory. So I prove time and time again, I'm Mr. Consistent. I consistently give the same, you know, criticism, the same praise if you do X, Y, and Z. Because I'm the best in the business. We unpacked. Introducing Super Thanks. Right here on the official Boxingego YouTube. Super Thanks allows you, the viewers, to show a little bit of extra gratitude, which enables me as a full-time content creator to push out the content you need in the world of boxing. Underneath all the videos, you will see a heart with the $sign in it. You can enter any amount that you find suitable as a super thanks. A brand new interactive and colorful way to get your comments highlighted and noticed by not only myself, but other people on the YouTube platform. Super thanks, a unique and cool way to show and applaud us full-time content creators. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Super thanks. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC, Bluetooth ready, with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster. We working.